Belton Mike basically saying Brian Kelly, tends to get upset easily when challenged or questioned. Wait until LSU fans start jumping his ass.
I think he's prepared for it. And he's also, I will say, he's also the Brian Kelly of like 2011, 2012, whatever, is still out there. I think fresh in other fans' eyes. But if you watch him on the sidelines at Notre Dame from like 2017 to now, he's very much changed his persona. He's a well-liked guy in the media room. His players love him one-on-one, which I don't think that was always necessarily the case early on. I do think he maybe had some bad blood with his players, maybe in the Cincinnati days even, but he can get away with it at that kind of program when you're winning. But he learned, maybe too slow at Notre Dame, but he eventually learned at Notre Dame that some of that stuff doesn't fly when you land, more elite recruits and more elite players and stuff like that. And, I think he's changed his overall coaching and persona, I think, quite a bit overall for the better.
Matthew Miller says, and thank you so much, Matthew, for the super chat. This week has answered the rankings of jobs in college football. The 5 best are Bama, Ohio State, USC, LSU, and Texas. People go there and they don't leave unless it's for the NFL.
Or get fired. In Texas's case.
Absolutely. Wow. So Brian Kelly to LSU, that one blindsided everyone. In this day and age of information flow and the ability to hack into just about anything and know where people are and track people and all that, it's amazing to me that nobody really picked up on this. Who knows how long they've been in talks and negotiations, and the same thing with Lincoln Riley to USC.
It's funny. Just like Kelly, I thought Lincoln Riley would end up being an NFL coach one day if he left. It feels like Bob Stoops handed him the keys to the kingdom almost, and you can argue whether or not he had been the success that people thought he would be. I mean, somewhat like Notre Dame. OU is lost in the college football playoff a decent amount of times. And he didn't get over that hurdle. So maybe he felt that USC, kind of similar to LSU, could offer him a little bit more, financially and B, resource wise and possibly a better chance of winning a national championship. So, but again, I didn't think that Kelly or Riley would leave their respective programs unless it was for the NFL or that's pretty much it. Just the NFL for the most part.
All right, Brian Kelly to LSU one day following the news of Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma to go to USC. And then, of course, the Notre Dame job will have to be filled, and then that job will have to be filled, and the dominoes will continue to fall around college football on this coaching carousel that is unlike anything we've seen in recent years. Nathan Erbach, Golden Homers, catch his podcast right there. And also Ben Belden joins us on a regular basis to talk Notre Dame football. Guys, I'm going to reel you back in to talk about the Notre Dame replacement for Kelly, to talk about the bowl game when it's selected and or a college football playoff. And, of course, National Signing Day is just 2 weeks away, to get your take on what is a number 4 recruiting class right now that hopefully won't implode between now and December 15th. So, guys, I appreciate it. And if you have any other parting shots, certainly the floor is yours.
Well, as I've been sitting here, talking about this, thinking about this, I guess my next biggest question is, what's the timeline for Notre Dame and what they're going to do? I mean, obviously this is particularly shocking because Brian Kelly is leaving for LSU when theoretically Notre Dame could be competing in a football playoff this year. Well, I mean, we're just talking about Notre Dame picking their replacement, and, Luke Fickell's at the top of a lot of short lists. I mean, I can't necessarily see Luke Fickell leaving before Cincinnati gets a chance at the college football playoff. I mean, they also have a conference championship game to play as well. So it'll be interesting to see what Notre Dame does. I guess, if Notre Dame's going to fill this quick, it's going to be an elevation of Marcus Freeman. If it seems to be, drug out at any point, you got to think, well, it's because they're starting to talk to guys like, Luke Fickell or, there's only a few coaches that honestly, I think that if it gets drawn out that they would be considering, I mean, certainly, is Minnesota Bowl eligible, just to use an example. I mean, I don't think that PJ Fleck would care much about staying around for Minnesota's bowl game if it was somebody like that. Just to throw a name out there, that's not who I think it's going to be. But, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like I say, the timeline, I think, will sort of start to tip Notre Dame's hand just a little bit. How weird would that be if, Notre Dame's hiring Luke Fickell next week and then he's no longer coaching and both of those teams are in the college football playoff? I don't know. I mean, again, not what I expect to happen, but if there's anything we've learned today, it's never say never. And who knows what craziness will ensue now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's just a parting word. I mean, I think if Freeman's the guy, it's probably going to be announced sooner rather than later, just to ensure that the recruiting class specifically and stuff can be held intact. Wouldn't be surprised if it's like someone like Fickell, though, that it's at least announced after the college football playoff is announced, not necessarily prior to or after the game, but certainly after the playoff. All the championship games and stuff like that are done and stuff, mostly because they need to interview and so on and so forth.